All right, so the first part of writing a CER is writing your claim, which is always answering the research question in just one sentence. 2 lessons ago, I asked for your exit ticket to be a claim, a one scientific sentence claim to the research question, and several of you did more than a sentence. And there were a few other parts that were missing. So when you're answering the research question for this particular investigation, you have to include mass because we directly changed mass. So how did we change the force? Well, we had to directly change the mass of the hanging weights, and that indirectly changed the the force. So we changed the mass, and therefore we also changed the force acting on the weights and the car. So you need to mention mass, force, and then the motion of the car, which was measured through acceleration. So I think those are the key points: mass, force, and acceleration. And in your sentence, all you need to talk about is their relationship together. So tell me, is it direct? Is it inverse? When you increase this variable, how did the other variable react? That is what you're putting in one sentence. Now, when you're citing the evidence, you add, I'm going to add a slide for the data from 2 lessons ago that you can use. And this is where you will interpret my data. You tell me proof that when you change the independent variable, how did the dependent variable react? So what would be helpful is if you draw a graph. We used a graph, again, 2 lessons ago, and all this data will be available to you at the end of these slides so that you can reference those and therefore reference it in your CER. So you can just draw a graph, or you can copy and paste a table that I've given us and that we've already interpreted in 2 lessons ago. I will give extra points to those who go above and beyond, using as much from our investigation as possible by going back into your lessons. Not just thinking what you remember, but actually finding that evidence. Next, when you are supporting your evidence with reasoning, you're telling me, why does this evidence matter? We investigated this specific lab to see and understand Newton's law of motion in action. So those are the underlying scientific concepts. So referencing Newton's law, specifically the second law of motion, will be important in your reasoning. This will tie up the research question, the evidence, and the scientific concept all together. So you need to make sure in your setup that you have written out the guiding question or a research question. You have given me one sentence for a claim. You have shown a graph, and you are ready to interpret it. You tell me, what does this data mean? But save the justification, save the relevance of the data for your reasoning. So therefore, you're going to tell me, how does it matter? Like, why does an increase in this variable based off of this graph help answer our question?